go to get all cleaned up and put away.
How was it, Dakota, in a galaxy far, far away?
All you say the whole day, right?
Yeah, that's the only thing I can say the whole day. You should interpret me.
That was. I can genuinely. I can. Happy Halloween, everybody. I can genuinely, honestly say, I had no clue you were gonna do that. That really threw me off. I don't know if I could do it today, guys.
I saw you getting into character. I'm like, I have to do it. I just have to.
Yeah. So, I don't know if I could do it anymore. Just like I couldn't take the job life. That's why I'm sitting on this beach. Don't mind the background. This is an actual beach in Florida where I'm sitting, enjoying retirement.
Palm trees, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
Close enough.
Oh yeah. Yep. That's right. And I know this is a Moscow Mule Cup, but there's no alcohol in here. Just everybody. It is just a diet soda.
Yeah. It may be 5 o'clock somewhere, but where we are is still 12. So,
That's right. I mean, in my old age in retirement, I have to watch, what I consume. So diet soda it is for me. Welcome, everybody. Happy Friday. Thanks for being here. Happy Halloween, as you can tell. We are happy it's Halloween.
At all. We decided to just surprise each other this morning. We'll figure something out.
I'm glad we did. And so, like always, once a month, we get to come together and we get to have a Q&A session with all of you. Thank you to those of you, few people who are here already. We'll give it a few minutes because, again, today is all about your questions. And so we do have a couple of comments here. Estella, happy Halloween to you. Oh, sorry. Hang on. Sorry. Am I still here?
Yeah, you're good.
I am. Okay. Sorry, I had a weird notification pop up. Estella, sorry about that. Happy Halloween. Thanks for being here. You said Dakota. Look at that. I love it too. Dakota's all in.
As long as people hear that one's going to be for all the people that watch our videos afterwards on our YouTube, whatever.
Yeah.
They're going to get that one.
Yep. Teresa, happy Halloween to you, and may the force be with you on the beach. Nice. I like it.
Nice.
It is. I'm feeling it. I am feeling it.
I think we do kind of want to hear like what other people are going to be dressing up as, especially, kids going to go out trick-or-treating tonight. What's your best costume you got?
That's right. Yes. Now, mind you, to those of the few people watching right now, this is not just a Halloween live. It is still a Q&A about all things in the world of special needs, right? Look at the topic here. We still want... That's right.
Information.
That's right. I think I'm going to clear this up too. Do we have a banner that specifically talks about IHSS, Regional Center? It does not.
Maybe. I don't know.
That's okay.
You're the banner guy. I'm the graphics guy.
Okay.
Boom.
So if you guys can take a moment to share this stream, if you can, tag some friends, tag some support groups. We'd love to answer your questions. Anything in the special needs disability world that we can try and help you with, we're here. And we'll do our best to answer. Let's see, how does this look? Boom.
Nice.
All right. Estella again. I was Sandy Cheeks from SpongeBob. Nice. Sweet. That's a good one. Did you have like the I assume you'd had to have had the bubble. What do you call that?
I mean, it's basically like an astronaut suit, or I guess maybe it's like a diving suit. And
yes.
Then squirrel tail on that.
Speaking of astronauts, my kids are an astronaut, and Jessie the cowgirl from Toy Story 2. Love it. Classic.
Very cool.
All right. So again, just to reiterate, if you have questions, feel free to drop them down, or else me and Dakota will just keep jabbering and talking. So yeah, Dakota, do you have anything you want to go over real quick while we wait for some comments and questions?
There was a topic that we just recorded a short video on it. I don't know if it's up yet. Did we post the one we did on Tuesday?
Not yet.
Well, I can give a little preview of what that one's about. It's about safety precautions being put in place, and specifically, we wanted to tell people about elopement issues because a big thing that a lot of people don't know about is that in the law, it specifically says that you cannot lock a person in a home to prevent elopement instead of protective supervision. If they are mentally impaired and non-self-directed and they have a tendency to elope, you cannot just put a lock somewhere that they can't unlock and say, okay, well, there's a lock they can't open, therefore they don't need protective supervision. It's not allowed. And a lot of people don't know that because, like, how many times have you heard social workers be like, well, have you tried putting on another lock? Or a judge be like, oh, well, you put on extra locks, or they can't unlock it, so you're all good. It's not allowed if they're non-self-directed, and that's something that I think a lot of people don't know about.
Yeah, I think that's a very important conversation because, when it comes to, fire safety, out the window to a lot of social workers, who cares, right?
Right.
Lock them in their bedroom, right? And so now, with that said, to be mindful of those who have very profoundly disabled loved ones, where maybe there are times you have to do something similar to that. I know from personal experience, I understand that, it may be the case where you might have to lock somebody in a certain area to prevent injury, right? But like Dakota's saying, technically, that can't be a reason to deny somebody protective supervision by saying you haven't done that. You haven't done that because that is a safety risk in its own. You're furthering endangering that individual because there are other factors too that have to come into play, like a fire hazard or something of that nature. Also, just civil rights, right? So, anyways, no, I think it's a great topic to discuss. If anybody has questions on that, I think also it kind of segues into household modifications. So Dakota, a lot of people, especially we see in the support groups and people who call us who have been denied something like protective supervision, talk about how they were denied almost for trying to keep their child safe, where they have so many things in place that help them, like alarm systems, a camera, they've got extra locks on the door, they take off the knobs on the stove, the knives are hidden, they do all these things, and their social worker said, well, good job. You don't need PS then. You don't need protective supervision. And then a lot of times they go in front of a judge and the judge agrees, right? So do you want to maybe talk a little bit about household modifications? What does that mean? What should somebody do? Does that mean they should take down all the modifications they've done? Do they want to allow their child to get hurt and then get protective supervision? Like, what should we do?
Well, certainly, I would never suggest removing safety features, right? I would say, let's make your house more dangerous so that you can get protective supervision. But I think what a lot of social workers and judges miss is that these safety modifications are not foolproof. Usually they are helpful and will slow the child down or prevent it for a time, but it's not a matter of like, you can leave them at home for hours, for days, and they're going to be perfectly fine. And that's the real thing, is that the safety precaution should only take away hours if it completely eliminates the need for supervision for hours on end. But if we have a little plastic thing on the cabinet that puts the knives away, it's like, for any child that's more than like 3 years old, they're probably eventually going to be able to get that off, but it's good. It'll last for a while, but you wouldn't feel safe leaving it at home alone. So that's the big thing about what needs to be conveyed, is that these things are only supplemental and they don't fix the problem.
Sorry, I'm just updating this banner.
Okay.
Yes. I think a key word there too, Dakota, and you can let me know how you feel about this, but I think it's a very important part of the regulations, because for those of you who are trying to pursue protective supervision, keep protective supervision, I do think that regulations can be very literal in this world of IHSS, and they can be very, very important buzzwords, certain areas of a regulation. So for example, Dakota was talking about if the modification that you have eliminates the problem, right? if you have something in place where you no longer have to supervise them to prevent the eloping, because the eloping could never happen because you have done this thing, right? That, although is true, but there's an important word that gets scattered throughout the needs for protective supervision, and that word is potential. So when there's still a potential threat of that person being likely to engage in that behavior or in a dangerous situation or put themselves in a dangerous situation, that is enough to show that if there's still potential, then the need, that behavior is not eliminated, right? If you have things in place to prevent that person from eloping from the home, but that doesn't prevent them from trying, it doesn't prevent, mistakes that could happen. If you have locks, maybe the lock malfunctions. Maybe you have a camera, but the battery runs out, right? There's all different types of things, right? And to say like specifically a camera or a lock, if they bypass that somehow, is the lock or the camera hung up going to jump off the wall and tackle that loved one to the ground to prevent them from eloping? No.
That's always the funniest one to me. They say alarms and cameras. Oh, you've got an alarm on your front door. There, problem solved. It's like, what's the alarm going to do? It's going to let the person that's not at home know that the door's opened. Well, great. It's not going to.
Yeah.
That's not going to stop them from running out to the street, right?
Yes. Now, with all that said, like Dakota said, obviously we love household modifications. If you can have these things in place, you can afford them, you have capacity to place them in your home, by all means, do whatever you can to keep your loved ones safe. That is the most important part. But just know they can't use that against you if there's still a threat or a potential that that person can get hurt, right? So we're happy to answer any question in regards to that if you guys have any thoughts. Mrs. Stella does have a question. If one qualifies for PS, is that enough to apply for a handicap placard for the vehicle as well due to elopement?
I don't know much about the qualifications for handicap placards. I would say not every person who receives protective supervision necessarily elopes. So that's one thing, is that, that's not necessary. But I have seen several people in the opposite, where they already have the handicap placard for elopement even before they get protective supervision. So I think it's something you can get for elopement even without having protective supervision.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up, is that protective supervision is not necessary to get an ADA placard. So if you have a child who elopes and that behavior is specifically a manifestation or a maladaptive behavior related to the autism or related to the disability or mental impairment, that is enough for the DMV to say you should have an ADA placard. But again, usually it will require the doctor to say, hey, this child requires this to prevent injury and harm. So you don't need protective supervision to get that placard. However, that placard can be really helpful in pursuit of protective supervision. If you get that approved and you're also trying to get PS, you can use that as like an additional piece of information to say like, look, my child is a flight risk to the point where we have this. We have this little card here that helps us. So great question. Teresa, E-Note 150 is where you find this information. What information?
This is specifically, this is the information regarding the rules about having a lock on the door to prevent elopement, and that you're not allowed to do that if the person is not self-directed.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right.
Ooh. So
you can use locks on the door to help prevent elopement if you are still in the home with them, but you cannot lock them in the house and leave and say, all right, they're not going to elope because they're locked in. That's not an appropriate way to. What it says, that's not an appropriate alternative to providing protective supervision.
Gotcha. Beautiful. Artie says hi. We say hi back to you.
Hello.
One more. So I have another question from Dal here. Remind me, Dakota, I have another thing I want to bring up. Yeah, and Andy did have a question. My steps are not a question, but my steps in place only give me extra time to address the issue. Yeah, so they help the modifications or the parameters you have in place.
Modifications, yes.
Yeah, that's great. They help. They're there for you to help you do your job versus preventing or eliminating the behavior. Right? It's exactly a great way of putting that.
It's like it helps. It supplements the supervision, but It doesn't eliminate it.
I love her costumes. They're cute.
I didn't hear what you say.
What'd you say?
Andy's costumes are cute. That are on her picture. There.
Oh, apparently Andy's profile picture has some very cute Halloween costumes.
Love it. I can't see it, but I believe it.
Teresa, 2 thumbs up.
I like.
All right. So Miss Dye has a question. My daughter's having a skin picking behavior. Can I apply for protective supervision?
I mean, it's possible. I think that behavior by itself is unlikely. Like, it would have to be, okay, if it's skin picking just of scabs that are already there, then I'd say it's hard to say that yes. But if it is like spontaneous scratching to the point of bleeding and then picking beyond that, then perhaps. But as a single issue, I'd say it's difficult to get protective supervision just for that.
Well, that would beg the question, is there any single issue that can get somebody protective supervision? And the regulations would say no, there's not. You can't necessarily use one singular issue. However, there is only one behavior or one concept, one issue, and that would be around a G-tube. If you have a G-tube and there's threat to the G-tube and you are cognitively impaired, that could be to my understanding, that is the one and only where it's like that stands by itself. But if you have a child or a loved one who's cognitively impaired and there's only one issue that they have or one maladaptive behavior that they have or concern, what we've seen IHSS do or use as an argument is say that is because it's a single thing, it is then predictable. You can do something to prevent that from happening. Now, that's subjective, right?
Yeah.
So that will then be left to a judge to decide. So could you get it for skin picking to the point of causing self-harm and serious damage? It's possible, but there's other factors here, like Dakota said. Is this person mentally impaired? Are they mentally ill? Are they non-self-directing, right? And so, yeah.
Of course, that's the number one, the first few standards is mental impairment, non-self-direction. I will say, I feel like any unsafe behavior, if it is done persistently enough and is dangerous enough and is unpredictable, you could get protective supervision for just a single behavior. But I think there are some that are more likely than others. Like the category of self-injurious behavior could encompass several different things, but that by itself is fairly likely you could get protective supervision. Elopement's a big one, and I think the third biggest one to me is pica. Like if you have pica, it's pretty hard to avoid it in all aspects of life. Like it's hard to make an environment that is so safe that they could never put anything unsafe in their mouth, throughout the day. So those are the ones I would say are like the most likely to say this one behavior is so persistent and so dangerous that they need protective supervision for it.
Yeah, and on that note of pica, a lot of people don't even really understand the ramifications of it. Pica is much more than just an oral fixation, right? Oral fixation is one thing, but pica means that, and again, not medical advice, everybody. We're not doctors. We're also not lawyers. We don't give legal advice. If you have tax questions, we're not tax people. Anyways, so with pica, it's usually a chemical imbalance, and it could be some type of abnormality within you. And untreated for a long time can cause permanent gut damage, heart health issues, a lot of things. And so a lot of people have pica undiagnosed for years because the other conditions just kind of like are on, oh, well, my child's autistic and they put stuff in their mouth sometimes, right? So we do encourage you to consult with your doctors about any behavior your child has. And if it involves oral fixations, look up pica, see if the behavioral characteristics of what they're doing, matches that. And if it does, get blood work done. Have the assessments done for pica because it's very, very serious if left untreated. RD, can a parent receive IHSS hours for themselves and also be the parent provider for their autistic child? My social worker suggested I apply for IHSS because I'm having a hard time keeping up with my personal health care appointments, etc. I don't receive disability or SSI. I was wondering if it's even worth all the paperwork. I don't want to lose IHSS I have for my son as a parent provider.
To my knowledge, and this is kind of, I'm kind of doing this from memory. If I remember, if we had cases like this, I don't think there's anything explicitly saying you cannot be a recipient and a provider. But there are certain like logical things that, you know, let's say if you're getting hours for saying that you cannot cook meals for yourself, but then you get hours for cooking meals for your child, that's gonna, like, obviously I'm just gonna look at that and say something's not right here, right? If you say you can't do your laundry, but you do your laundry for your child, then they're gonna say, what's going on here? You know, why is there a disconnect here? But if it's something like, I think you mentioned healthcare appointments, if you can't drive yourself places, and so you have someone to drive you to your appointments for a specific reason, you know, physical limitations, whatever, and your child, you don't have any time for driving your child places, then that's a reasonable thing where you could get time for a category you can't do and still provide for a whole bunch of things you can do. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's fine if it's, you know, common sense, reasonable in that way.
I agree 100%. And so I normally like to just say, pick your battles in situations like this. You know, just because the person, like if you have a child who has IHSS, they still can receive their IHSS. You just wouldn't be the paid provider, right? And so if you're worried about them losing their benefit, that's one thing, because that wouldn't impact their ability to have IHSS for themselves as a child. But if you're worried about you no longer being able to be paid as the provider, then again, we can't tell you what to do, but we can say that it will be left up to interpretation on the social worker's part, the county's part. And so, yeah, that's a tougher one. That's a tougher one, Artie. But
I would also say one last thing is that I feel like it's more likely if there was a conflict between what you are unable to, what you're saying you're unable to do, and what you're providing for your child. I'd say it's more likely that you would go without hours as a recipient rather than you being disallowed from being a provider. You know what I mean? Or I think it's more likely that they would just not grant you hours in that category because they see that you're doing it, rather than that they would discontinue you as a provider. Teresa's raising her hand. I think she wants to say something.
Yes, a person can be an IHSS recipient and a provider for someone else, but they cannot be their own provider or simultaneously work for two different recipients at the same time for the same hours.
Okay, I don't know if you heard that, but she said a person can be a provider and a recipient. They just cannot work. They cannot be a provider for themselves. And what was the last thing?
Or simultaneously work for two different recipients at the same time for the same hours.
And they cannot work for multiple recipients at the same time for the same hours. I mean, that's just true about everyone.
In other words, if someone is providing for them at certain hours, they cannot also be providing for someone else at the same time.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you, Teresa. I don't think she even knows what I did there.
What'd you do? Oh.
Yeah. Okay, she saw it now.
Yes. Yeah, thank you for the question, Artie. Hopefully that helps clarify it for you. I know it clarified it for me. How do you feel, Dakota? And do we have any further points on that we want to go over?
No, I think our answer was pretty much on point
okay.
As far as that.
All right, Dakota, how about epilepsy? Can epilepsy get you protective supervision?
It's difficult. It's possible. This is the thing, is that protective supervision is for mental impairments and not for a need caused by a medical condition. And epilepsy is kind of that one that kind of straddles the line, because it is medical, but it puts you into sort of you'll have to remind me what it's called, but like the cognitively impaired state after a seizure. Postictal, that's it. And we have in the past gotten protective supervision for people with epilepsy who were put in that state afterwards, because during that time they're non-self-directed, they're not sure what they're doing, they're confused, things like that. But I think it's more difficult than with someone like autism or Down syndrome. Yes, you with the.
Okay.
coffee
teacher,
cup in the,
teacher Dakota,
yes.
teacher Wookie. So to my understanding, everybody who has a seizure disorder, who has actual seizures, enter into a postictal state. I think that's just, and I could be wrong. Teresa, let me know if this is accurate or not, but because I know you're gonna look it up, because that's why I don't ever know anything 100% because I know Teresa's ready to correct me, which is great. I love it.
Yeah.
To my understanding, the postictal state is just the state you would refer to anybody coming to out of a seizure, right? So if they are mentally impaired, where they're not capable of managing themselves in those situations, that's a key part, right? So like, my sister Molly, for example, who has Down syndrome, who also has epilepsy, if she were to enter into a postictal state after a seizure, she not only will, of course, experience confusion, the headaches, the nausea, like a lot of people do experience, but she also wouldn't be able to comprehend or understand those feelings in that moment. Therefore, she would act detrimentally to her safety. She would stand up and try and go somewhere. She would know how to keep herself safe, right? And so that is my understanding of the postictal state. Teresa, did that give you enough time to look it up and correct me?
What some seizures do not. It's absent seizures do not, and in rare cases, other seizures do not create the postictal state.
But you do have to be either mentally impaired or mentally ill for it to apply for the purpose of protective supervision.
Right. And I do not believe epilepsy counts in that
No.
regard.
No, being epileptic by itself is not.
Yeah.
Okay, we do have another question. Are we ready?
Yeah, I think we're ready.
Sorry, did I cut Teresa off? Sorry, it's a little fuzzy on when she should be.
Convulsive seizures. Is grand mal included in that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Grand mal seizures, convulsive seizures, those do cause a postictal state.
if you have epilepsy,
That's the clarification.
if you have epilepsy, not if it's caused by.
Sorry, super important. I just realized Cheeto officially completes the ensemble. I officially look like a retired old man with my dog right here.
Dude.
I've completed it. I've completed the costume, guys.
It really does.
Oh, look at the little Batman on stage.
Hello, sir. Okay. Thank you again, Artie. Yes, and Cindy. Hopefully that answers your question. Let us know if you have any more questions on that.
You were a little all over the place.
Gabby. Gabby, my son is 8 years old, has autism level 3. He's verbal. He hits himself without knowing, and he also climbs on all furniture, tall things without danger awareness. He elopes. I'm waiting for his IHSS appointment. Do you think I can qualify him for protective supervision and SSI send for another medical study to reevaluate? So the question is, Dakota, does he sound like a candidate for protective supervision?
I mean, it sounds that way to me. As soon as you get self-injurious behavior, elopement, and the climbing, a lot of social workers don't care about climbing as much, but at 8 years old, if it happens a lot, that can definitely be a concern as well. Just off of the very brief amount of information, I think that certainly is a possibility for protective supervision. Yeah.
So for the climbing part, Dakota, something that I've noticed, a lot of children who are on the spectrum, specifically with autism, tend to have the same type of behavior when it comes to climbing. Climbing in general is a totally typical thing that children will do. They will climb on tall places. They will jump off because it's fun and kind of scary, right? So that on its own can't get you protective supervision, right? Now, how could we use this for the purpose of protective supervision? So a lot of children with autism tend to do the same thing. They'll climb on a high place and jump off, landing on their knees. So Gabby, if your child has this tendency where it's almost like a fixation where they climb and they jump and they put all this pressure on their knees, they land on their knees, it tends to be like this one very common specific behavior to the climbing part and the jumping part that can result in injury. And so to me, that would be like an extreme circumstance. That would be an extenuating or an extra, you get what I'm saying, right? So that to me would be a reason to bring up something like climbing as a reason, right? But yeah, Gabby, it sounds like your son could meet the criteria for it. He sounds like a candidate. We're happy to help you out with that too. If you ever wanted to give us a call, I'm glad Dakota or myself are happy to go through, all the different criteria for protective supervision and see if it's something that maybe you should be pursuing. Well, you already have the appointment coming up, so.
By the way, she did also ask about SSI.
Yeah.
As far as I know, the behaviors aren't as relevant for SSI as much as income is.
Mm-hmm. Income and diagnosis.
Right. Is that something that if he's in regional center is going to be easier to get, or does that not matter?
No, it doesn't matter. So SSI has parameters of, it's way more simplified. It's, do you have a disability, and will that disability impact their ability to be economically self-sufficient? And so if it's something like autism, then they can rule that one right away and say, okay, well, people with autism tend to have, if it impacts them later on in life, we have to assume that. So autism is one of those conditions that, yes, if you have it, you're going to get SSI pretty much. People with migraines, people with chronic migraines get SSI for approved for them for the rest of their life. So it, to me, is more about the diagnosis. But when they're minors, like Dakota said, the only way that they'll actually be approved for it is if you are financially under that threshold,
Mm-hmm.
which is low income status in most counties.
Mm-hmm.
Teresa loves the little Batman. Cindy.
It's super.
Teresa also said, in some cases, the climbing isn't about the climb, it's about not learning from a bad fall. Absolutely. To me, that is like a clear
Very
definition
true.
of what real non-self-direction is.
And yeah, I mean, that's that's very true that oftentimes, especially for very young kids, the best way to describe how the relevance of one of these behaviors is to say where they differ, especially at 3 or 4 years old, where they differ from a neurotypical child is they will hurt themselves and then immediately do that same thing again and just not put no connection whatsoever that what they just did was harmful.
Yep. An example that I like to give a lot of the times too, like when I'm speaking with somebody who's trying to figure out if they qualify, is if they have a little child, 5, 6, 7 years old, and I like this example. I'll say, you're cooking their favorite meal on the stove. We got mac and cheese. It's got hot dogs in it. It's smelling delicious. They're super stoked. And just like every kid, they're going to get really close to it, try and smell it and creep up there. And what do you know? They burn their fingertips on the stove. Ouch. Ooh, right? What's a typical 6-year-old going to do in that scenario? They're going to cry. It's going to hurt, right? They're going to need mom and dad to console them. Mom and dad pull them away. See, ouch, no, see, that's hot. That's why we don't do that. Ooh, see, feel, ooh, right? We get an ice pack. We get their favorite Spider-Man Band-Aid, right? And then you send the kid on their way for the rest of the evening, right? Now, what is a typical child going to do in that scenario from that point on? A 6-year-old, in my experience, being around 6-year-olds I don't know. I'm not forgive me. I guess I can't really relate to it necessarily, but most children this age developmentally can have an understanding of consequence versus action when they're injured, specifically in that way. And if they get their favorite Spider-Man Band-Aid on their finger because they injured themselves, they're going to spend the next week telling everybody and their grandma how they got their Band-Aid and how they shouldn't touch the stove, right? But if the next day rolls around and your little Johnny goes right back to the stove and does the same thing and burns themselves, right? That is that consequence versus action that we're talking about, right? Same thing with the climbing, same thing with the eloping, same thing with all these things. There is a natural anxiety, a natural fear that can occur with children that we look for as a part of their development, right? Okay, Gabby, thank you for being here. Alma, hello to you. Dakota, I have a question for you, unless you have a question in mind.
Well, I was going to say, since what was it that was mentioned? So we were talking about SSI. You mentioned about income thresholds. This is just something that we talked about. All the advocates here got together the other day as just something that we wanted to make people aware of, because a bunch of letters are going out to a bunch of SSI Medi-Cal recipients about the income threshold being reapplied starting January of 2026. And mostly we just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware. If you get these letters and you're like, what's going on? Am I going to lose my Medi-Cal? That calm down, don't worry about it. Like 99% of people are not going to be affected in any way because the income threshold is like 120,000. So that we're seeing that those letters are being sent out now. So if that's a concern, or if you get those, we just want to let people know, don't worry about it. Your house does not count towards your asset income. Your car does not count. The IHS doesn't count for income, and the limit's at over 100,000. So you're probably fine.
Well said. Let us know if you guys have any questions on that, because that is important, because it is scary when you receive a letter that is kind of insinuating you might lose something, right? Like these benefits.
Yeah.
And so it's really challenging to manage this when there is a lot of fear that goes out around these programs and benefits. And so we're happy to try and help you give peace of mind if we can. Thank you, Dakota, for sharing that. Hopefully that resonates and hits some people's hearts today. Let me see here. Ooh, hold on a minute. What's that? Ooh, okay.
Are you testing out new features in the middle of our live?
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent.
Big. No, we want small. I think I like the small. I like the regular. All right, Dakota. I have a provider / recipient question for you.
Okay, hit me.
Sorry. So I know that this probably is not something, it's not I'd say a popular one in the comments, but let us know if this applies to anybody here today. But I did speak with somebody on the phone today who is disabled themselves, and they have a couple of kiddos with special needs too in their home. It's unclear if they receive IHSS or not, but if you are an adult individual where you have physical disabilities and maybe even some cognitive challenges, right? But you are married to a spouse who is not physically disabled. You are legally married to them. And you apply for IHSS, they become the provider. Do you want to share some of the spousal responsibilities? Because this person that I spoke with went to court. They had a hearing because they had a dispute in the hours and because they didn't like the fact that her husband was unable to claim the domestic hours. The county said that because they're legally married, he cannot claim the domestic hours. Therefore, they didn't even approve this person for the hours. So, what are your thoughts?
Right. Well,
something that could be helpful for people.
On a more official side, I can at least provide some clarity on what the rule is. To my knowledge, when you have what they call an able and available spouse in the home with you, then it is considered their duty. And it's similar to how they talk about parental duty to take care of your child, and that, we're not going to give you time for laundry until they're 15. We're not going to give you time for feeding until they're 8, because everything below that, the parent's expected to do it, right? That kind of thing. Similarly to that, they have rules for an able and available spouse. And I believe it is the domestic and the related categories that they say the spouse is expected to do these things. And the domestic is things like housekeeping, chores, cleaning up, making sure the yard is clear, the driveway, and things like that. And I think generally the logic is, well, you both live in this home, and this is something that spouses would be expected to share the burden of, you're not both going to do it. One of the two of you is going to choose to do it. And so that's what they come up with. And then related services are things like laundry, shopping for food, shopping for other things, cooking meals. And again, these are things that according to them, I don't like the fact that they limit this personally, but they say, well, in a marriage, you wouldn't expect them both to do these things equally. They would divvy it up. And so it's just on you to provide everything. Now, personally, I wish they would change these rules, because I don't like that they disincentivize marriage. I just think that's just not a good thing for them to say, well, you guys are married, so it's on you, and we're going to take away support from you because of this. I mean, it's just, I just don't like that. But that is basically how the rule is and what it affects.
I think it also insinuates, like what you just said, that this is the responsibility of one spouse. It's almost like saying, well, technically one spouse is responsible for doing all these things. Therefore, having two of them do it is a bonus. I'm with you. I don't really care for any of the, I guess, viewpoints as to maybe why. I mean, I guess there's probably some logical things we can come up with, but one issue that I have is that if this spouse has some extreme dietary restrictions, maybe meal prep is not what it used to be. Maybe it's a very extreme task for this person, or it's very, very challenging, right? Even laundry, right? It could be this person has to go above and beyond to disinfect. Maybe this person now has an autoimmune disease. And there's like so many things that could happen that make the task that much more challenging, where it kind of is, it's further beyond what a typical spouse would do for a typical spouse, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm with you, Dakota. I think that hopefully maybe things can change in the future. But
I think if there could be some kind of middle ground, because this is the way I see it, is that I understand that in a typical marriage, these responsibilities would be split, right? That, if your husband and your wife is disabled, now you have to cook the meals and do the yard work and the housekeeping and the laundry. And perhaps before then, you wouldn't have been doing half those things. And so, but you would have been doing half of them, right? You would already have been doing the yard work. You already would have been doing the cleaning or the cooking or whatever. And they're saying, well, you already would have been doing those things, so we're not going to pay you to do them now just because your spouse is disabled. But half those things you wouldn't have been doing, and now you do have to do them. So I feel like, could there be some kind of middle ground where it gets prorated, but you still get paid for it? I don't know. I feel like there's more that could be done in that area. Yes, go ahead.
How about in certain situations, what if the spouse, because in this particular situation that I am referring to, this is the case. Able and available was brought up in the hearing. That was brought up, or that's being brought up through the appeal process. And what if the spouse technically isn't around? What if the only thing that makes them married currently is the piece of paper with the state of California? If let's just say their address is still at the house, right? Everything still says that they're legally married. But if the spouse isn't doing these tasks for them because they work 3 jobs, or maybe they're in the process of separating, whatever, right? Does that no longer make them able and available?
To my knowledge, yes. That if the person who's supposedly able and available is not present at the home to provide the tasks, then yeah, I believe those could be paid to a alternative provider.
However, they are still technically, let's just say this person does live at the house. They're still living under the same roof. The only thing is that they don't provide those things because they work several jobs. They're going to school full time. They do live at the home. They're still there for 8 hours a day or 10 hours a day, sleeping in partial whatever. But does that no longer make them able and available technically according to the regulations?
I mean, you probably have to argue it. I mean, I think if you do have an extreme working situation where you are only ever there awake for a couple hours a day, and even then you're getting ready for work and leaving, I mean, you could probably make the argument if you're absent for most of the time, because you can't, if you're at work through lunchtime and through dinner time, you can't be at home to cook the meals, right? It's just not physically possible. So I think you could absolutely make the argument and have a third party be paid as the provider, but it would have to be a fairly meaningful situation, because if you are self-employed, right, and working from home, and you are physically able, you're able-bodied, then you might have a hard time convincing a judge that you're completely incapable of being a provider as well.
Yeah, I think this begs the question of spirit of the law versus letter of the law, right? I think that sometimes things can be argued that are not necessarily exactly what the regulations say, right? you know, in this particular scenario, I do think this is more in spirit because it makes sense. If that is really the case, all the more, I mean, I guess we're talking about something we don't even really agree on anyway with these rules. So I think it's easier for us to make these points. But anyways,
Yeah.
that was really one of my only questions, that I had a very long conversation with this individual today. It was a great conversation. And it was just hard. It's hard because their situation is very difficult. And so I feel for them. We're doing pretty good on questions today, Dakota. It's a quiet live. It's a quiet Halloween, isn't it? What are your plans for Halloween tonight?
What?
What are your plans for Halloween tonight?
Oh, I haven't. I've not nailed that down yet. I might be holding down the fort at home. You know, for the few kids that we get, but we'll see. We'll see. Something might happen.
Sweet. I hope you have a blast. Do you have candy on deck?
We've got some candy. We're prepped.
All right.
Prepped and ready.
Nice. Anybody else in costumes today at the office?
There's like no one at the office. I think everyone, just like everyone who's not here watching us today, I think everybody's getting dressed and ready for tonight.
Yep, I think you're right.
Place,
oh, we do have a Dicey. Can you discuss regional center and reimbursement model? I could try.
It's all you.
Dicey, back at it with the tough ones. Thanks for being here, Dicey. Hope you're doing well. So by reimbursement model, Dicey, are you referring to specifically what like regional center will pay for as far as medical devices and things like that, like reimbursement in that way? Or are you talking about something different? Because I'm not familiar with like a particular reimbursement model with regional center. Let me know. Let's see if she can reply quickly, if she's still here.
Teresa's trying to look it up too, but we'll see.
Okay.
We'll see if we
yeah, because
clarification.
But when it comes to regional center and money, just in general, that's a tough topic because regional center has a lot reimbursement specifically for ABA. Okay, so regional center is going to be the payer of last resort for everything, including something like ABA. So if your insurance or your Medi-Cal does not cover the full cost of ABA, which in most cases it should, unless there's like really extreme situations. Like I have a family that I've worked with for many, many months now where this child's not in school because they get literally a little over 30 hours a week of ABA. A week. So they are in ABA full time, right? This kid's 5. And so regional, I know that they've had issues with Medi-Cal and regional center sort of kind of footing the bill for everything. But to my understanding, how it works is your insurance, your provider is supposed to cover it. If they don't, or they don't cover all of it, that is when you can make a case for regional center to kind of cover the rest. So specifically for something like ABA and therapeutic interventions like that, it has to be, there's 2 factors. 1, can somebody else pay for it? Because if so, you have to utilize that. And 2, is it a service regional center will even pay for, right? Is it something they'll cover? Because there are therapeutic interventions that regional center won't pay for, like OT or speech therapy. That stops as soon as the child ages out of early intervention, right? If they're under the age of 3, but they're still under the regional center umbrella, then they're in early intervention, where they will help you with OT and speech. But once they hit age 3 and above, speech and OT are now the responsibility of the school district. And if the school district's not providing as much as you want, you have to pay privately, because even your insurance is going to have a hard time covering that if the school is giving certain amounts, if the school's approving the support. So is it something that regional center can take care of for you under their list of services, purchase orders, right? And 2, is there another option that can pay for it? That's what's going to be important to regional center. Let me know, Dicey, if that helps at all. Andy, does Molly still want to trick or treat? Molly will do anything for candy, won't she? I think she would run out the door for candy for sure.
If she could.
It's the dress up.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's it. Teresa, that's right. She won't. I think she could care less about the candy. It's if there's an opportunity to dress up. Molly's all. And Andy, I think this is probably Molly's favorite holiday. Would we all agree on this, knowing Molly?
No, her birthday.
I would agree with that too. So Halloween's a close second for sure. But Andy, yes, my sister Molly loves
But she dresses
anything
up on her
regarding
birthday
dress
too.
up.
That's great.
Yes,
That's right. Yes, and would Molly actually want to go out and collect candy? I actually think Molly enjoys handing out the candy. I think that's fun for her in recent years. She likes sitting on the front doorstep and seeing all the little kids come up and she can, hand them candy. I think Molly likes that because Molly's lazy. She don't want to be walking around.
She just wants a lot of people to see her in her costume.
Dicey, limitation with accessibility of services under traditional model. Yes, you said, I understand payer of last resort. It's more of the provider not being a vendor. Okay, so Dicey, you are awesome because you're bringing up the biggest, some of the biggest issues with regional center. So I will not say lack of funding, but I'll say lack of vendorization, lack of service support, lack of reimbursement on these issues, and lack of available service. So these are all the big issues with regional center. And I would love to connect with you privately on it because I actually have questions for you and your experience with it. And for those of you who don't know, Dicey's an advocate too, who does amazing work. And so yes, I guess I don't know if you're necessarily asking a question here now at this point, but limitation with accessibility of services under traditional model. So even with self-determination, people are still having issues and challenges with this. Regional centers far from perfect, and I am excited to see things change and evolve through nonprofit organizations that pop up and organizations that can help and aid some of these situations. But as of right now, they're sort of pigeonholed. They're stuck because regional center can only provide the services that are available. So if somebody wants to utilize XYZ service, but there's no vendor in that area, or there's only one vendor in that area that provides that service and they have a wait list that's a year long, that family's out of luck because there's nothing else available, right? So I know it's kind of like it's not exactly answering your question because I myself am not a regional center advocate, nor is Dakota, right? Dakota, unless you magically became an advocate for regional center. No, okay.
No.
Dicey, let's connect. I'd love to chat with you. It's been a while. Teresa, you linked the DDCS website for vendor provider rate reform. Oh, nice. Cool. I need to read that. I want to check that out. Real quick, because we're about done. Andy, my daughter just turned 36 and it's sad. It's sad. I don't want to go out. Well, I get that. You don't have to. But I hope you guys can still enjoy your time together. Yes, I appreciate you, Dicey. Excited to chat. Dakota, we're about out of time because I assume Nicole's going live today, right?
Is that right?
Nicole is down with a bad back, and it's going to be Myra today. She needs your help, Dakota.
Oh, okay. It's not going to be
Even
Nicole.
better. I'm just kidding.
But it'll be our other Spanish advocate, Myra.
Thoughts and prayers to Nicole.
The other Myra.
Thoughts and prayers to Nicole. Hopefully her back is okay. You said it was a back issue. Did I hear that correctly?
I think that's right. Yes.
Okay, sorry. I didn't want to say so, like if that wasn't what you said. So just to clarify, speedy recovery, Miss Nicole.
Probably actually just on her way to Vegas right now, and that's just the excuse. I mean,
no, we're gonna out her a little bit. She's on her way to an EDM concert in the middle of the desert.
Well,
all right, y'all.
So
we're about out of time.
You can join us 1 o'clock where Myra is going to be doing a Q&A as well. I don't know if she's dressed up. I'll have to wait and see. But yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for being here. Dakota, thank you for the kind words and just amazing information you always provide. My as a wise man once said, "You are my sober second," and that is the truth.
Sober second. That's a good one. And Teresa's our fact checker.
That's right. Thank you, fact checker Teresa.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry, quick question because I'm curious. Valeria, are you a PE teacher? I'm not sure what that is.
PE
What's
maybe?
PE teacher? I don't know. Oh, my costume. Maybe that's what she's referring to. Sorry. No, my costume is somebody who's retired. I'm just a retired old fella sipping on my Dr. Pepper. That's it. Happy Halloween,
Yeah.
Andy. Thanks for being here. Dicey, you have a great, safe night as well. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I hope you all have a wonderful Halloween and Friday. Dakota, have a great evening. Have a great day.
You as well. We get it.
All right, send us off on it. Send us off on it, Dakota. All right, everybody. Have a great weekend. See you next time. Bye.